The internet has changed the lives of everyone on the planet, keeping us connected and helping us achieve our dreams in ways that past generations never imagined. Join Christian and Farouk as they interview other startup founders, investors, tech employees, and amazing people who have changed their lives in unbelievable ways simply by using the internet. Find out how you can do it too right now on Thank God for Internet.
Hey, we're live with another episode of Thank God for Internet podcast. I'm excited about this one. As always, I'm excited. I've noticed that. Farouk, how about you? How do you feel about this episode coming up?
It sounds exciting. We've been talking for a little while with Andrew on our weekly calls. So I'm excited to actually have him officially interview for our podcast. So I can't wait.
No, for sure. Andrew's definitely a hustler. We're going to get into a lot of his background, but his story is super inspirational. I get the vibe every time I talk with him that I just need to work a little bit harder. So we hope that you guys who are listening to this take away some of the gems that Andrew's bound to drop. Am I correct, Andrew?
Absolutely.
Andrew, why don't you go ahead and tell the people who you are and what it is that you're working on?
Let's see. I am with InsuredNomads. I'm one of the founders of the first InsurTech in global benefits for those who are working remotely outside their home country. That's travel insurance, international health insurance, and global employee benefits.
Yep. So you mentioned that you're one of the co-founders. Could you speak to how many co-founders you have at this point?
Right now, we have a team of 4 co-founders that are leading in executive management. We have others that are building, but as for founders, yeah, it is powerful. And thank God for the internet, because that's how we came up with these founders, with the product. And let me go back a few years. That's how I met my wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, now, coincidentally, I met my wife like that too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
online?
Match.com. Yep.
Okay. Mine was actually through somebody who told me about her. And so then online, we communicated for a few months. And we're about to hit 20 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I shot my shot, as they say, on Facebook. I sent my current wife, a message on Facebook, and the rest is history. Man, it's weird to see all 3 of us met our women on the interwebs.
Well, we're geeks, so I'm not that surprised.
So, Andrew, could you let's take a step back before we get into the story of InsuredNomads. Let's get to know about you, your journey. What was your first, what would you say, experience with the internet?
Let's see. My first experience with the internet.
Yeah, it's one of the things.
Is that really the
ask.
question?
Yeah,
that is wild because, okay, I'm 47 years old, and I am one who has lived online as soon as I knew the internet existed.
Yep.
I became a digital nomad 20 years ago. I've lived across 5 continents and many countries since then. And my oldest just left for university to major in internet diplomacy and international relations, having been pulled all around the world, living in different countries. So without the internet, none of that would have been possible.
Yep.
Because I was ruined for the ordinary with international living, and then online was able to keep that going.
Yep. No, wow. So 20 years you've been a digital nomad. Before this was a trendy thing. That's not.
Yeah, before it was called that. Right. Before it was called that. So many times as an expat, the location independent, you name it, the new nomad.
Yep. Nah, super. Would you describe yourself as I usually ask if people are digital natives. Would you describe yourself as a digital native?
No way.
Yep.
No.
Now, super interesting because your story is one that, like you said, been all over the world. Farouk and I, we have a lot of Zoom sessions and we joke about how we are remote working, but you take it to a whole new level in what your remote working is, correct?
I'm 47. The digital natives are a lot younger than I am usually.
Yep.
But so I started before most of the digital natives, but my life has revolved online. Those who are in my peer group are not, their world doesn't revolve around the internet. When they think the internet, they think Facebook, Twitter, etc. They're like, oh yeah, I'm on social media. No, I've survived on the internet before digital natives. So yeah, I remember when you paid per baud, and so of course digital natives have never heard that term.
Per bog?
Baud, B-A-U-D.
Yeah, it was like 14 baud, 72,000, then 14,000, then I remember when it went to like 28 or something thousand, and I was like, wow, that was like, you had to have a special modem. No, it's the speed of the modem, right? Because you have that sound at the beginning of this, which is where that comes from the modem, So yeah.
And before there were unlimited plans of that very slow speed, you even paid according to how much you downloaded and uploaded.
Yeah, I remember those times. Like, I'm kind of like you, a little bit older, I'm still younger than you. Like, I'm 43, but I remember those times before, those clunky times.
Yes.
No, it's always wild to me to talk about internet history, because whenever I think of the internet, it almost feels futuristic. So the idea of the history of the internet is something I'm just insanely fascinated about, because it seems like it's happening fast. Like, you guys do speak on the early days of the internet, but we're not talking generations ago. We're talking 20 years, and the change that we've seen in the past 20 years. My first experience, I just remember getting those AOL CDs in the mail in the early 90s. So, and my mother was a programmer, right? So it's interesting to even think about what her experience is as it's changed. In what it seems like to be faster and faster every year.
Right.
So I want to know about what was that first experience? You kind of talked to it a bit, but what was the first time that you were on a computer, or the first time that you were on the internet?
Let's see.
What country were you in?
I guess I was in the US for the first time. And it was this mammoth thing strapped to a table. So yeah, that was my first exposure to it. Yeah, just to check email.
Right.
Get my first email account set up, that type scenario.
Who was the email provider back then?
It was with my university. So
okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was how everything was based back then. It was either you had a great employer or you got it through university, because it was all a research project.
Yep. So was it love at first sight for you? Was the internet, as soon as you saw it, you realized it was going to change your life, or was it something that kind of crept up?
No, it was gradual. Definitely gradual. Now it's not gradual or love at first sight. It's bullet train on drugs.
Yep.
Because it goes faster than I could dare even think, and it's the when this recording started, I was going through the process of opening a bank account for our German entity. So it's a thing of what you can do online.
Yeah.
Is just staggering, because I don't know how many continents. My first thing tomorrow morning after waking up and reading a bit, having some quiet chill time, using the internet, using an app.
Yep.
My first thing will be on a call to Hong Kong.
I think the weirdest thing I've seen is I think in that you can rent a service where it allows you to water the plants in somebody's house over the internet. You pay for a service. There's a little garden with cameras, robotic arms, which are dragging the water, and you can water the plants.
Yes.
Yep. People think of anything.
No, for sure. What made you decide to leave the States? Was it internet first, and then you realized the internet could support that, or I guess I asked that question wrong. Did you become an expat first and then use the internet to support that? Or did you say the internet is a tool I can use to live abroad?
Definitely the internet was a tool I could use to live abroad, because I didn't go overseas because of I didn't start my international journey because of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It was love. So that's what took me internationally.
So we got an international love story here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wait,
So yeah,
what?
you definitely, yeah, I was saying you definitely then have like, good comparisons, how it was traveling abroad and living abroad before internet and after internet. I'm sure internet has made it so much easier now.
Oh yeah. I was leading a web design agency, hosting and design agency back in 19 years ago.
Wow.
Outsourcing everything to India and Pakistan, selling it primarily in the US and Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with dial-up. Now I'm here on Wi-Fi in the third story of a building, and the internet keeps going out because there are too many people in the building streaming during pandemic times.
Right. Yeah, no, the pandemic definitely caught everybody off guard for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, the speed hasn't improved that much. I'll have to say, after 20 years, I would think that this thing is like flying, but it is still like spotty. Like cable companies hold monopolies. Like it's only available from one or two places. It's expensive as hell. Right.
And there are many areas. I mean, actually, the majority of the world does not have access to high-speed internet.
Right. Now that's something that
the majority. Yeah, where are you? You're in Florida today, is it? Or
I'm in Florida. He's in Georgia.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was in Alabama, and that's where we have one of our main offices in the U.S. is in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yep. Shout out to Birmingham.
80% of the state of Alabama is without high-speed internet.
Yep.
80%.
I was working with C Spire. I think they have in Alabama too, but I was working with C Spire way back on their fiber optic campaign. As we were trying to get fiber optic internet, our high-speed internet, to the places in Mississippi that are not able to take advantage of this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still laying down the metaphorical copper lines, if you will, for getting everybody online. And I often reference the AOL thing. I often reference Steve Case and what they did with America Online, right? But it seems like that mission almost 20 years, maybe 30 years later, still hadn't completely come to fruition.
No, not at all.
So tell me about why you were traveling abroad. Is this the first company you started, or you said you were at a design agency? How did you go from design agency to where you are now, or how did you get into design agency in the first place? Especially during dial-up days, it seems very specific back then.
Many steps in the process between there and here. That's
30 years.
And many countries. So it's way too broad of a question for me to be able to answer that one. Yeah.
Well, let's start at the agency then. How did you
hone it a little more specific and I'll.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, how did you get started with the web design agency back then?
At that time, there was a place called Elance.
I remember Elance.
And that was a good place to find designers. It's kind of like the Fiverr of today.
Yep.
So using corporate barter and trade. Mm-hmm. Ever heard of barter?
Yeah.
Barter is actually a currency around the world.
Oh, I thought you meant actually bartering.
Real bartering, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where it is a currency and you don't trade individually or from one company to another, you're trading a virtual currency. So that was how I built my agency, was in utilizing the networks, the companies around the world that use barter accounts. Mm-hmm. So they would pay me, some small hotel in Vermont would pay me for a web design and hosting. Mm-hmm. That virtual currency would land in my account. Mm-hmm. And then I would pay for food in Brazil. I'd pay for a hotel in South Africa, from the currency in my barter account. Mm-hmm. And that's how corporate trade is a higher level than business barter. But a lot of people, when they think barter, they think, bickering for a lower price. Mm-hmm. They misuse the word barter for that. And then they think of, I'll trade you my eggs for your cheese.
Right.
That's direct trade. Mm-hmm. Well, barter is used in most major cities all around the world through barter accounts. Mm-hmm. And so that's that's how I built the agency, and using different platforms to find the customers and then different people to fulfill the work. Yeah. And then markup of virtual hosting, because most people didn't need more than a tiny fraction to host their site, but they would go somewhere and pay a fortune for a hosting plan. Mm-hmm. Well, I could do unlimited domains and then charge for it without them buying a lot of wasted space on a hosting plan at $15 a month.
Yep. Nah, super interesting business model, especially back then when it felt like the Wild West.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really interesting that you were able to really coordinate a lot of these projects from all over the world. And I keep kind of digging deep on this question, but it's just super interesting to me. I want to know, how did you fall into this space? Like, how did it all, why did you start an agency? What made you even aware of the bartering or the token that you spoke of? Did someone introduce you to that, or was it just through a bunch of Google searches you fell in the rabbit hole? And I guess it wasn't even Google.
No, there wasn't Google search back then.
Wow, yeah.
No, there wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So someone told me about barter, that a doctor told me about barter. He accepted it at his clinic.
Yep.
And patients could pay from their barter account. He had then, used it to buy gift cards at restaurants, jewelry, trips, in-ground swimming pool at his house, all from patients paying through barter. So he told me about it. Wow. And I realized, wow, I bought a couple of .coms, sold them on barter for $10,000 barter dollars. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, okay, I need to monetize my skills, and my skills were in making connections.
Yep.
So in making connections, I could find designers. Mm-hmm. And I have an eye for design, so I would talk through with the business owner of what they actually wanted their website to look like, communicate that to the outsourced guy, and put that into play. It's not because I wanted to run a design agency.
Right.
It was just using skills.
Yep. No, that makes all the sense in the world. Then I won't even go back. So you were buying and selling .coms? Is that what you just said? You bought a domain or sold it for $10,000 barter dollars?
Yes.
What year was that you were selling the domain names?
Well, I sold one.
You sold one.
I did sell a couple of others, but yeah. Let's see. That was in 99, I guess.
Okay. So 99. Yeah. What got you into that? Like, not just that particular domain name, but what made you see there was an opportunity in flipping domains?
I saw one available where someone had .net. I bought .com. There's no master thing behind it besides seeing an opportunity and walking through it.
Yeah.
I mean, back then you can just pick any word. It was available. Like, it's not like now.
Right.
It's like,
right. I remember doing stupid searches of buyflowers.com. I was like, that's available. Should I buy it? And just ridiculously easy domain names that I bought and let go over and over and over.
Right.
Exactly. I kick myself in the teeth all the time right now. And because I'm like, oh my God, why did I let go of these domain names? They would be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars right now, but I was like, you didn't think at that time that it's going to go anywhere, Yeah.
If I could go back on GoDaddy and look at all the domain names that I bought over the years, couple of hundred domain names I've bought over the years and let go.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have no clue now, but it would be very interesting to see some of the values of those domains and who has them now.
Oh yeah. It would be if I just go back and handful, it would be over probably millions of dollars, just because. Yeah. I mean, just you can't foresee that. It's hard to foresee. Internet wasn't as popular as it is right now. And also domain names were expensive. I remember, the registered domain name was $150 or something from Network Solutions. That's the only place you could actually buy it at. In the beginning, I don't know if they were even called Network Solutions at that time. I think they were called something. Forgot the name.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
It is. It has. Yeah.
No, for sure. So, okay. So you said it's 99, you sold the domain name. You basically use the skills that you have of connecting with people to build out the design agency, really just project management and the whole thing, how long did that last you? Was that a few years or was that
Yeah, it lasted a few years. It was really good. Even the domain name for that agency, I wish I still had it. It was a good one.
Nah, that's wild. That's wild. I want to ask what it is, but I kind of don't want to ask. I want to know, but I don't want to ask. Yeah. So what was next for you then? So after the design agency, there were a few steps to where you're currently at now. What was the next project that you worked on?
The next thing was actually getting debt free so that I could move to Ghana, West Africa, and run a hospital.
Hold on. I got to stop you. How did you come up? I mean, that's such a big shift. I just want to hear, like, how did you come up with that decision? You know,
I married a doctor who wanted to go to Africa to practice medicine in a place of need.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did was set up internet. That was a satellite internet that put that place on the map and brought in funding, and it's self-sustaining, no outside funds, and it's 2 hours at the time. It was about 2 hours from the nearest refrigerator. It's a 7-hour drive from the capital. Probably a little bit less now because of better roads. But so went there when my first kid was 3, my daughter was 3 months. And while we were there, my third kid was born there.
Interesting.
So thank God for the internet, because we didn't have phone service. We didn't have electricity a lot of the time. We drilled a well. Actually, there was a well there, but we got a pump on it. So, but with the internet, we were able to get a lot of groups through, get local government funding in a whole lot easier. And it changed things there.
So it's crazy, because the whole reason this podcast for me was I want to highlight how much has changed in the digital space in the past 30 years, let's say. But I was not expecting to hear this story of you being an expat, essentially project managing from all over the world, right? And then deciding your next step would be running a hospital, right? Setting up internet, and really in a dramatic way in another continent. And you're talking about just the development that came from that, government support, obviously local support, just infrastructure in general. Because I think that my generation, I'll speak for me, I'm 30. It's easy for me to take for granted a lot of what the internet makes possible, right? I hear a lot of times my generation will complain about there's nothing to watch, there's no good content, like, or how hard it is to even start a company, specifically talking about entrepreneurship. But you dug a well.
It's interesting. Yeah, for sure. Interesting to say the least. So I'm just getting the feeling there are a few steps in your journey. So I want to skip directly. I'll hit the fast forward button and talk specifically about what it is you're working on right now. You spoke about InsuredNomads. What gave you the idea to start this company? Let's see. I spent a number of years, of course, in healthcare in the U.S. and overseas, and then married a doctor who became a travel medicine specialist, and then got her MBA and master's in public health. So both myself getting into risk management, representing over 30 of the global international insurance companies, travel insurance and health insurance, then entering crisis response and travel assistance. We realized that it was time to introduce the first InsureTech solution within that space.
Yep.
So that's what we've built.
Yeah, I mean, now that we heard a little bit of your backstory, it all kind of falls into place.
Absolutely.
Right? The reasonings, where you are, what you're doing, right? It was a culmination of all those experiences. And obviously you're like light bulb. Ta-da! Look, obviously there's this missing. I have tons of experience, tons of connections. Let's connect these things together, and it makes sense.
Yep.
Right. It is amazing the way we can now as a founder, speak with angels. We received, an angel investor today invested in our company. And we've had pre-seed investors through VC funds and now entering into seed, preparing for Series A. And all this, without face-to-face interaction with people, face-to-face through Zoom and other unique platforms that, Teams that always malfunctions and other things like that. But it's without the internet, couldn't be on my call in the morning to Hong Kong.
Right.
It's wouldn't have had my last phone call before this to London. It's a staggering thing that we're able to do.
No, and it blows my mind because a lot of this technology has been here. Obviously, there have been some improvements over the years, but it seems like you've been ahead of your curve or ahead of the times, right? But what you're saying with the investors, it seems as though doing business primarily online has been more socially acceptable here in the States, right? Like we could have done this 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but the pandemic has forced everybody to shift how we do business. And it's insane to see how many investors are now opening up their checkbooks to startup founders all over the world, by the way, on a Zoom call.
Yeah, I mean, they would never do that before. They would want to meet you in person, multiple meetings, and now that's okay, right? I'll give you millions of dollars just over a Zoom call.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And the fact that you may have heard of, that people sold goods on a cart pulled by a horse. And they would have never imagined that we would have trucks and a network of highways delivering to stores in shopping malls or a network of stores all owned by the same person. If you had told that person that was pulling a cart by a mule or a horse, that would have been a foreign concept.
Right.
But also similarly, if you had told the person who owned stores all across a city or stores all across a region or across the state or taken IKEA stores around the world, that's not necessary. You can just sell it online and have someone ship the thing to somebody else. They would have said, no, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. And in a similar sense, where insurance is the power that controls the money around the world, traditionally no one has been able to start an insurance company in the same way that we're able to now. It is a similar paradigm shift. Sure, there's a lot of regulatory and compliance that is required, due diligence and just amazing amounts of excellence in every turn. But to be able to do that without the backing of a $1 billion entity behind you is now possible in the same sense that the horse-drawn seller would say, how in the world would you have an Amazon.com? That's just not possible.
Yeah.
So for someone to think you've started an insurtech, you started an insurance company that, were licensed in multiple countries, that's just mind-boggling even to folks today.
Well, speaking to that, how does it work? Like, how are you actually, paying out yourself? Are you servicing the accounts yourself? Are you working with partners in those countries? Like, how are you able to manage all that?
It varies on different aspects of it. So being a lean and agile build, we're partnered with best-in-class providers in all of these regards. Similarly, in that paradigm shift where the mammoth corporations would have a legacy software program and they would hire more people to come in and improve it and build upon the software program versus the no-code movement. But it's like, no, let's make something available to where you can edit it. You can change it. You're not reliant on us. So in a similar sense, to almost simplify it to the nth degree, but no code, the industry. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. You know, we were pitched by software programmers for various aspects of it. Whereas, okay, 700,000. Oh, let's another one, 350,000 for this one solution. But yet to go with one that was better than all of them, who said, look, what we're going to build for you is really no different than what we've built for the last 16 customers. We're giving you the rights to drop in your data here, there, here. And why are we going to rob you? I mean, charge you ridiculous amounts of money.
Yep.
Because, and they actually use the term, it's no code.
Right.
It's they didn't use the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, but that's basically what it is.
Yep.
Without the 6-figure price tag. And they're an award-winning fintech, insurtech provider. Of course, they're not in the US because that's not the model. The model is, okay, if you're in insurance, if you're in finance, you're going to pay incredibly for it. But we're going to see these shifts and see competitors rise up in all industries, especially in the markets that have not been dominated by the global leaders.
Right.
Whether you're looking at, in Lagos, Nigeria, or in other major metropolitan areas where Uber has said, okay, yeah, we'll put it, but a secondary competitor come in that's local and take over easily.
No, it's a lot to process there because you are literally on your way to global domination. So you were able to raise a seed round with a no-code solution, correct?
Well, I wouldn't say it's totally no-code.
Right.
Because you don't no-code our product. It's sure, you can use no-code features on platforms and tools within your space, but there's no such thing as a no-code insurance product. Right.
Just because the customer's inputs, is that correct? Am I understanding it properly?
Well, we're not a software as a service, so it's not no-code. It's, you couldn't say
you still have to do work on the back end.
Yeah, you couldn't say you have a no-code microphone right there. No, it's a microphone.
Right. And the only reason I ask is because specifically in the startup space, people tend to find themselves in one or two buckets, right? They're either a technical founder or a non-technical founder, right? Or it's a technical solution, a non-technical solution.
Oftentimes it's uber simplified to that degree when it shouldn't, but yes, correct. That's often a comparison.
Correct. And then with what you guys are doing, from what I hear, it seems like an original concept. But the fintech space is on fire right now, right? The insurtech space is on fire right now. And then it seems as though some of those things have been oversimplified as well, right? So because you hands down are a rock star. Just hearing your story, why would somebody not bet on you, right? But I'm excited to hear how your story continues to progress, right? As you build out this company. When did you start it, and where how many months have you been running this business now?
We started in November of 2019. So we're right about at the 1 year mark.
Yep.
And so we were born as a a remote company. COVID didn't make us remote.
Right.
And so that's encouraging because we can get incredible labor talent to join us and establish partnerships all over, because we're not looking just within one city, one place. There's several tangents I'd love to go off on there, but I won't.
Well, you mentioned COVID, and I'm interested to hear, because, your business is based on people traveling, on moving, right? And COVID has kind of slowed down that. Like, how did it affect your business? Or, I don't know, to what stage you guys are yet, right, at implementation, but did it affect it? And what are you expecting to do, how to progress?
Well, the great thing is that we did have our travel and international products available during COVID. which was a little bit scary because most companies were getting bad reviews. Up to this point, we've only had 5-star reviews. So that's great. For ever since, all during the outbreak or the pandemic, it's way beyond outbreak. So it's how it affected us. One, of course, revenue was a lot lower than it would have been just because people weren't traveling. In a sense, though, others who decided to stay where they were needed something better than travel insurance, because travel insurance is for a trip, not a lifestyle. International health insurance is for a long-term lifestyle outside your passport country. Whether you're moving from Turkey to the US or from France to Indonesia, you need international health insurance because it's not a trip. So it's not travel insurance. So policy wording has had to change. The way policies are built, which that takes time.
Right.
That can't just be, okay, we're going to change it today. No, it has to be filed with every jurisdiction. It has to go through a lot of legal and has to go through the reinsurance and the underwriters and et cetera. Luckily, before COVID, we didn't exclude pandemics or COVID on our international policy. So we didn't have to make changes.
Right.
But most of our competitors did exclude COVID. So that was advantageous for us. Forward thinking, we are situated to grow due to COVID. Because more people will be leaving their home country. More people will be traveling because they're ready to go. And now people realize the importance of insurance more than ever. So
absolutely,
especially if they go look at ratings at Trustpilot or Google before they purchase, they might find that, okay, let's go with them. So it's an interesting season. The pandemic effect I believe is very positive on insurance, but on a side note, it's quite positive in health insurance since people didn't go to the hospital during this time, except for those that were affected by the illness. So insurance companies have made a lot of money because they haven't had to pay out claims. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great point.
They've collected money, but they haven't had to pay out. They've only brought in revenue month after month, reoccurring revenue. The best subscription-based model ever. Just keep people out of hospitals, but take their money anyway.
The original subscription service are one of them.
Yes.
I think it's super interesting, just the model that you guys are approaching. And with everything that's happening in the world right now, we're seeing just shifts in how people are living their lives. My wife and I, we've threatened to move out of the city because it doesn't make sense for us to be paying what we're paying to be in the heart of the city if we can't go outside, right? So you're seeing more exodus, not only locally, right? We're going to be moving out to the suburbs, but internationally, or nationally and internationally. I actually saw, I think I saw someone promoting you guys before I met you personally, and it was a travel blogger, right? Like it was, and it's interesting to me to think about how you guys approach it from a marketing perspective, just because I like marketing. But there are so many opportunities, I guess you can say, or use as the word, because of the shift in culture. We are changing how we live lives, right? Like I was watching a YouTube video of this guy living life in Italy because I was homesick or because I was going stir crazy. And I want to say, shouted you guys out.
Well, cool. That's really neat. It's one of our advisors is a specialist in partnership marketing. He's actually based in Singapore. Never met the guy. But spent plenty of time on the phone with him. And we met through the Draper Entrepreneur Network. If you're not familiar with the Draper Entrepreneur Network, I'd highly encourage you to founders to check them out. That's DraperStartupHouse.com is part of their network. And that's Tim Draper and the many VCs that he's part of. But Yeah, definitely founders. Check him out.
He's a big time investor. Yeah.
Nah, big, huge investor.
Yeah.
I remember he even had a TV show at one point in time.
Yep. And they have an accelerator. They have a course called Fundamentals for Entrepreneurship that takes place in Silicon Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
No, what a time. What a time. What a time.
So I want to, get a little bit more into because I'm not familiar with obviously that much with the international, just for our listener, international insurance. So I am familiar, when you go travel, short term for vacation, you get that short term, international insurance. You can get that, but if you're staying like you said, for a little bit longer, let's say a year, what have people done before, your company? What's the pain point that they have experienced, and now that your company is solving for them?
Well, one of the main problems is, of course, that we're solving is transfer of financial risk. I was 40 years old, had a heart attack, circular saw to my chest, and heart surgery. If I didn't have insurance with that $130,000 hospital bill would have been my responsibility.
Right.
Would have been bankruptcy, would have been, GoFundMe account and relatives chipping in to pay a hospital bill. So the easy answer for the pain point we're solving is we're taking care of the financial risk when something major happens, because it's, if you're in some countries and a widowmaker, heart attack like that happens, you're not going to survive. I was in and out of South Africa and Mozambique during that season. If it had happened while I was there, more than likely I wouldn't have made it.
Wow.
Because the day I had the heart attack, they said, we've got to operate tonight. There's no waiting. It's blockage. So
before if you were visiting there and working there, you could you get the local insurance? Was that available to you, or or was it just not it? You just have to pay everything with cash? How was it before?
Well, before and now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a foreign country, most times you can't get local health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
You can get travel insurance, but travel insurance in many scenarios is too weak for a major incident. And if you have a diagnosis, say, okay, suddenly you've had way too many chocolate bars and they say you're a diabetic now.
Yep.
You need insulin. That's not going to be a covered thing on travel insurance.
Right.
And the next policy you buy, it's going to be excluded. So if you have international health insurance instead, I use something major like diabetes. I mean, minor, even though that's not minor, but
right. Understood.
Say a major disease were diagnosed, you could renew that international health insurance and that disease would still be covered on renewal. For travel insurance, it always excludes anything that's happened before the policy started. And when it ends, it's a totally new policy, always excluding anything from the past. So that's one of the major reasons why you wouldn't want to do travel insurance if you're a foreigner living in another country. It's, sure, it'll pay for the minor thing right then, sometimes a major, but if there's any residual effect from that, it won't. Not. Now, Farouk, you ask, the pain point, there are a couple of major ones. They only deal with health. Average Joe doesn't use it because they stay healthy.
Yeah.
So people are frustrated that they're paying for something that they feel like they're not going to use. That's a major pain point when you're selling something to somebody that they're not going to use. Do you ever go in a store, buy some clothes that you're never going to use?
All the time.
Or you go to, you go to the grocery store and it's like, okay, I think I'm going to buy groceries that I'm never going to eat today.
Right.
No, but with insurance, it's a purchase where you feel like I'm not going to use this.
Right.
Well, peace of mind. That's what you're buying, really.
Yeah, but it's not peaceful when you're writing that, when that payment comes out of your account every month.
Yep.
In a way, to some people, it's one of those frustrating purchases to some that I spent all this. I threw all that money away. It's not because you were guarding yourself. You were doing what was right for yourself and your family by doing it. So building in features that are useful, such as, I'll use an example, in many places when you wreck your car insurance is there to repair the damage, right?
Yeah.
But they've built in some features that are nice that are totally not related to repairing the damage on your car, such as while your car's in the shop, they'll pay for a rental car.
Right.
That has nothing to do with the insurance on your car.
Right.
That's just one of the side things. It says, if you buy your insurance from us, we'll bring you gas on the side of the road. We'll give you a car when your car's in the shop. Not every car insurance does that. Mm-hmm. So it's not every policy with every company does it. In the same sense, we're solving the pain point within our niche, within our niche of industry, by building in solutions that people need, such as being able to call and talk to a doctor, a certified doctor, anytime you want, unlimited, 24 hours a day. Most don't include that. Giving a member ID card that is connected to the MasterCard network, so that if you actually have something happen, we don't have to reimburse you. You just swipe your card at the clinic and pay for it right then.
Really
We're the first and only ones in the space to deploy this.
No, that's genuine.
And not just the plastic member ID card, but in your wallet. So that it's in the Apple Wallet so it's touchless. That's not going to help you in the remote places. But most instances happen in cities. So the majority of the customers, they'll be able to utilize that. Another piece, we're the first to add in cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. So most of our folks are working online. They're accessing the internet. They want to watch their CBS This Is Us episode that's coming out this week or something. And they can't do that without a VPN. Mm-hmm. So we're including VPN, antivirus, online password manager,
nice.
Whole suite of cybersecurity along with it.
I like it. That's pretty interesting because because these people are also, like when you're remote, you're alone most of the times, like you don't have time. Often you don't even speak the language at the beginning at, wherever the country you're at, you're like kind of, everything is strange. So having that whole, like a kind of welcoming feeling, homey feeling to it, because things are packaged with it, right? You have less things to worry. I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Right. We're actually the first ones to make it to where with our policies on our new plan design that's coming out, these features I'm listing are on the new policies that are soon to be rolled out. Mm-hmm. Everyone else will get you to the best hospital, which is great.
Right.
They're responsible for getting you well again or taking care of you when you're injured. Health insurances, travel medical insurances. But we're making it to where if you want to, we'll bring you to the home hospital of choice. So if you're on some volunteer trip in Malawi, something happens and we have to medevac you to Johannesburg, South Africa, that's wonderful. You're going to get excellent care. But would you rather be in the hospital there for 5 weeks or flown all the way back to Brussels, where you're home?
Right.
Your family, your friends can come visit you for 5 weeks in the hospital. So taking you back home is going the extra mile.
Yep.
And I imagine, like obviously, there's a huge demographic of individuals purchasing this insurance, but I can also imagine that there's a big corp accounts, right? Because they just want to insure their employees when they're working, across.
Absolutely. So the major brokerage firms in the U.S. have one is contracted with us this week already, and 2 are in the process. Wow. Of the leading firms in the U.S. and another is multinational to bring on the global employee workforce.
Nice. Yeah, that's going to be like a big income for you guys.
No, that's super cool.
And another question for you. Just sorry, I have one more.
Yeah.
What is the coverage of the countries? Are you is it available in where? Like all the countries, certain countries?
We can cover in most countries. There is a very small list where we can't offer coverage. Mm-hmm. And that's, the typical, the Yemen, North Korea, et cetera. I've got a call this week with a potential sales distribution partner, and they're in Costa Rica saying we need to develop a policy with you guys for the 3 million Venezuelans coming into Costa Rica.
Wow.
So those are expats. Those are nomads. Those are the immigrants for a policy with us.
Yep.
So when you think of insured nomads, you're not thinking of, okay, the Israelis that are moving to Thailand,
yep,
or the Brits that are going to Spain, or the Americans that are going to Brazil, but yep, all of the above.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when I think of digital nomad, and maybe it's just purely off of my perspective, I think of the YouTuber who's traveling across the world, or the graphic designer who's traveling abroad, or the web developer. Because at one point I threatened to to move to Thailand and just take on American clients.
Who did you threaten?
Yeah, right. No, I was threatening the universe. I was like, I'll move. I swear I'll do it.
No, that's what a lot of people have exposure to, is that type of remote worker.
Yep.
But it's really the assignee with corporations. Mm-hmm. Someone who went off and did an international volunteer trip and decided they're going to continue. They married someone from another country.
Yep.
They saw an opportunity to open a grocery store in a culture other than their own and make money. Yep. They saw war in their homeland and said, I can take my inheritance and go buy a restaurant and run a restaurant there. The various flavors of cross-cultural citizens
yep,
are way further than the Instagram view of the location independent.
Yeah.
But it often varies according to the glasses that we've had the honor of putting on at various seasons of life.
Is there something like, since obviously you're kind of breaking the ice in a lot of these things, you're the first icebreaker that's doing this in a lot of these instances with this in your industry. Is there anything that kind of caught you by surprise, or something like you're like, oh wow, I didn't think this was happening, or this was going to happen, that you just experienced?
I guess one of the biggest areas of surprise, which is that the U.S. is a nation of countries and not states, to where there's so much bureaucracy,
right,
that hinders progress in many cases just due to regulation. There should be a whole lot more collaboration and uniformity in operating a business that is interstate. Because it's easier to operate across Europe than it is across the US,
right,
in regulated industry. So that's why our first products really are all European, and one of our predominant revenue centers will be Germany, just because we can operate across the world from Germany easier than it is from the US, even though the ease of doing more simplified business is easier in the US. Interstate regulation, just to file a product design in Florida may require a 500-page document that requires legal, and that's just to have it licensed in the state of Florida. And that's for one product design. So if you decide to offer 4 products, that's 4 different sets that have to go through consultants, lawyers, wait for approval, just for it to be licensed in Florida.
Yeah, I know. I like my wife. She's a pharmacist, right? And then she's been working lately with a lot of these remote pharmacies. And if you want to obviously serve customers in that state, you have to get a license for that state. And obviously, you know how many states they are, right? So pharmacists are getting licenses all over the place, tracking them up, and then it's crazy. And this kind of speaks to to what you're saying is especially when it comes to healthcare, it's very separate and segregated, into each little pockets.
Yes.
Now, I guess that's one of the advantages that you have of being a niche product, even though the niche is huge.
Yeah. Because
especially during this time, I'm just curious as to what people's travel plans look like, or not even travel plans, but relocation plans. How many people are realizing that you don't have to be in a major city to still do American business? I would only expect, your target audience to boom over the next 3 years.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So companies will expand internationally at a faster pace as well.
Yep.
Because they'll realize we can take our products to this country, since we now have employees that are willing to work in that country.
Right. Now, this has been extremely fascinating. I feel like there are a million questions we could ask, and I want to be respectful of your time. But I want to end the interview with a few questions that we typically ask a lot of our guests. I'll give you the space to drop a shameless plug. I'm pretty sure I think I know what it is, but if you were to shout something out right now or have the listeners go somewhere, what would it be?
Go to your social media platform of choice or multiple and follow InsuredNomads. InsuredNomads. We'd love to have you follow along, because you never know when a friend of yours is in need, and it would sure help us out, because credibility, sadly, goes by how many numbers next to your brand.
Yep. Yeah. No, the social proof thing is real. So guys and gals out there, follow InsuredNomads on your social media of choice. Let's get these numbers up for these guys, because Andrew's doing some really good work right here. And I think it's important for, obviously I'm talking to who my demo is right now, right? But it's important for everybody. I think we're going to see more people traveling internationally, living internationally, working internationally, seeing more companies hire internationally. So this seems like a very important product in the space. Second question is going to be, drop a plug for something that you don't have any direct or even indirect affiliation with, something that you think is really cool or that you've seen on the internet recently.
Definitely notforSaleCampaign.org or on social media, NFS for Not For Sale. So Not For Sale is a global nonprofit that helps combat human trafficking, that may be paying the fees to get some kid out of working in a mine in Asia, paying the fees to get someone that was sold into a marriage, the legal fees that they were not agreeable to, paying the flights, the research to get someone out of a situation they shouldn't be in commercial labor. And that's Not For Sale on social media and Not For Sale campaign, or just go to InsuredNomads and click our social impact and read about it on that page. We are a social impact venture of Not For Sale, and giving a generous contribution of all purchases to make sure that the kids that they support, the ventures that help provide continuous revenue to those that have been rescued, can keep moving forward. So that's Not For Sale. And there's a great book by the same title.
Oh, that's an excellent, side plug, and it's probably bigger than your main plug. And I love it. I love it. That's great.
Nah, this has been definitely great. Super powerful interview. I feel like there was a lot we missed out on this, but I do want to go ahead and wrap up this interview. Andrew, I would love to stay in touch with you, especially as you continue your journey. And hopefully next time we can dig deeper in some of those insights and not have to give a background story. I feel like we spend a little bit of time really just trying to get to know you. But I think you got a lot that you can share with the audience for the Extra Founder and Thank God for the Internet podcast.
Well, thank you. And it's been an honor to be on with you guys. Thanks for all your work. And if you're tuning into this and you haven't gone to Extra Founder, go to extrafounder.com and join in that weekly call they have. It's certainly worth it.
Hey, we definitely appreciate that plug, Andrew.
Yeah, that's a third plug. We're going to charge you for that one.
Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to see you in our community as well.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Well, until next time, we'll see you on the internet.
Until next time. That might need to be our new sign off. We've actually been trying to fill out one of those. But listeners, if you made it this far in the podcast, per usual, we thank you for bearing with us. Another great episode with a guest, Andrew Jernigan of InsuredNomads. And until next time, we'll see you on the internet.
See ya.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Thank God for Internet. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to show your support by subscribing and leaving an honest review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you're listening right now. For more great content, head over to extrafounder.com. Thank you and catch you on the next episode.